May 18th, 2022. We have 4 items on the agenda. The first item on the agenda is the application of Maria Martins relating to 11 Kendall Avenue. That's an issue, an appeal, an interpretation of the zoning code that is before the planning board and the village board of trustees. The applicant and indeed the property owner are not here tonight, I do not believe. So I'm going to make a motion to continue that public hearing. There's a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second item on the agenda is for 20 Continental Street, Felipe and Jose Riviero. Proposed addition and alterations. This is a continued public hearing from last month. And I believe we have the applicant's architect, Mr. Hernandez, here tonight.
Thank you.
So happy to hear, what your thoughts are since the last meeting.
We did listen to all the comments. We weren't able to submit in time for everybody to review, so I do have extra copies of the changes that we made, so I can walk you through the changes. So
I'm just going to, thank you. So I'm just going to ask you to speak up.
Yeah, okay.
Could you have people behind you?
There was concerns at the last meeting. Concerns were raised about the number of parkings we were requesting, the shade, the availability of using the driveway that was being blocked before, and the size and its relationship to the neighboring houses. So what we did is we did reduce the number of bedrooms we're adding. So now we only added 2 bedrooms to the total count of bedrooms. So the amount of parking spaces, we're increasing by 1. We also reduced the size of the addition. There was a board member had a concern about the fact that we didn't have. There used to be decks at the back, and there was no way to get out. So we did provide a step-down design, which reduced the size of the design, impacting the neighborhood, and also reduced, it provided the ability to have an upper deck, a middle level deck, so you can go from upper level to lower level. That did, so you can, if you look at 5, that has a different, that did create a difference in the layout, and also create a difference that we do have now an ability to walk out of the addition in the rear, which is a concern. Also, we did provide the last sheet, we provided a solar study, so it does show the implication of the shades, different times of the year and different times of the day. So yes, in the afternoon, late afternoon, what we're proposing now, it does impact the neighboring home, which is 18, but during the rest of the day, you still get sun in that area. Going back to some of the other concerns, again, there was concern about the proximity to the neighboring homes, the fire safety, as we mentioned the time before, the fact that we're going to sprinkler the building, there's going to be new construction that's going to improve the fire safety. They did remove the existing bottle that was there, so we did recoup those 2 parking spaces that they were missing. And I believe that, we kind of touch on all the items that were brought up there.
Okay, I just one issue, not so much, it's more procedural, is this is now a revised application.
Yes.
Right, and a lot of times the public's going to look at the website to see the revisions and then come to the meeting prepared, to discuss it. That didn't happen here. I understand things happen. I'm just gonna say I'm reluctant to vote on this application tonight until, the plans get put online. Public has a right to digest them and then come back. Is it?
I
Yeah.
totally understand that.
Okay.
I felt that it was, beneficial for the board to see the steps that were taken.
Yeah.
Again, I'm sorry that, due to time restrictions, that we weren't able to submit that, but as you look through it, you're gonna see that we did put thought into revising everything and listen to all the commentary that they will make the last time. So,
Understood.
yeah,
So with the reduction in the one bedroom,
two bedrooms.
you reduced it by 2 bedrooms?
Yes.
Excuse me. That brings down the parking requirement to what?
It would be 6.5, we rounded up to 7.
7. And by removing the bollard, you're creating 2 spots?
Right.
Or
Recouping.
Okay. And so before, there was 6 spots required based on the number of bedrooms in the house, and now the applicant is asking for 7,
Yes.
7 parking spots.
Right.
basically. Okay.
JB, you also mentioned that you're reducing the size of the
Yes.
footprint?
As-
Can you just run
The
through that?
footprint, the first floor is still the same,
Okay.
but the upper levels, we receded them, so in order to, as we were working with the, solar impact of the neighborhood, we reduced those two, the second floor and the third floor
Steps back even
steps
more.
back even more, in order to, one, to provide the deck that, the ability to walk outside like it was requested, and also it helps with the adjacent properties.
And I see that you moved the proposed new air conditioner
Yes,
compressors to the
yes.
back also, away from the neighbor?
Yes. We relocated the unit to the rear, and also we did look into the specifications of the unit. Even where they were located before, they were in compliance with, I think it's chapter 272 of the noise. So we were under the decibel requirement, but we went a step further and moved the unit to the rear of the property. And the garbage now is on the other side as well.
When you say on the other side, what do you mean by that?
It's before it had it in the rear, so now it's on the side. It's away from the closest home. It's on the driveway side.
It's on the side where the parking is?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any other changes that you want to discuss between last month's application and this one?
No, I think that, it was a reduction on the size, reduction on the number of parking spaces were required, relocation of the units, and we provided, hopefully the solar impact study that we provided provides a good understanding of how that works in the neighborhood.
May I suggest that, obviously Sean's going to have a chance to look at these plans between now and the next meeting. I would recommend you just reach out to him and say, hey, what do you think? If you need anything else.
Yep.
Just communicate with him. But I assume, Sean, that you'll update the public notice
Yeah,
if necessary.
well, I'm assuming based upon what Mr. Hernandez has indicated, that all the variances should be reduced, which would not require a new notice to be published, but you will confirm the zoning
Right.
compliance before the next meeting. And if in fact something has changed, we will renotice. But at this point, it seems like it'll be a reduction.
I don't think they'll reductions.
Right. And we'll also post, if you send us the digital file, we'll put it on the website as well.
Any questions from the board?
My only suggestion, it's good for me to look at what you proposed last month and then compare it, so if you have a way
Okay,
to show that,
Yeah,
that's helpful
definitely.
to see the changes that
Yes.
you made, so.
yeah, that definitely be something helpful,
All right, thank you. I'll
Okay.
make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone from the public like to speak, just state your name and address, please.
I want to start with a question. Is this the first time that Sean and the members of the board, zoning board have seen this?
Yeah, just state your name and address and then.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Ann White, 3301 Kendall Way.
thank you. Yes, this is the first time we are receiving it, and so we've already said we're not going to vote on it tonight. We're going to make sure it gets up on the village website. You all have a chance to look at it and come back to the next meeting.
Okay. There's one additional question that has been called to my attention, which is that I understand that there are facilities in the basement, which was proposed as a playroom, that might make it easy to make that into an additional apartment. And I don't know what more to say about that, but I'm concerned about that in addition to the points I made last time. And for the zoning board members who weren't here last time, my testimony is online, so you can read it there.
And obviously, we don't deal with enforcement issues. We're evaluating the application.
I know that. Yeah.
So the plans that will be submitted will have the basement plan as part of the package. We require that all the plans and the rooms be labeled for their uses and show compliance with both the zoning code and the building code. Any future violation of that would be a violation of the certificate of occupancy and subject to enforcement.
Thanks, Sean.
Anyone else from the public that would like to speak?
Hi, Cheryl Capello from 18 Continental Street. So when you said that you scaled back the bedroom, how far out, how many feet out are you going to go? So right now, before it was proposed at 28 feet out, so now that you're scaled it back, is that just an additional bedroom on the second and third floor? So you're
Yes,
not touching the first floor at all?
No, the second level will be 20 feet, and the third level will be only 16 feet. So it'll be 16 feet, 20 feet, 28 feet.
So it's still going to go out 28 feet for the
The
first
first
floor?
floor, yes.
And you're still planning on doing the playroom in the basement?
Yes.
Because nothing has changed with that? Okay. And then you're adding fire escapes on top of, a little deck or something?
It's an open, it's an open deck.
So that'll be on top of what you're doing to add the bedrooms in?
Mhm.
So it's going to be out even further
No,
than what
there's-
the original?
the roof of the lower level becomes the deck of the next level.
The way it is now. But what I'm saying is, so if you're going out 28 feet or 20 feet, so that's still going to be, your original thing was that it was only going to go out 28 feet for the two bedrooms. So now you're still going out 28 feet from the original first floor apartment. So it's still going to be 28 feet.
First level is 28 feet, the second level is 20 feet.
Right.
So if you want, the roof of the lower level will be the less 8 feet, it will be a deck.
So and then I was told by somebody that it was, I don't know if it's a law or not, but not, that you couldn't put bedrooms outside of the kitchen, build bedrooms beyond the kitchen. I don't know if that's a law or not.
It's not before us.
Nothing, so I just was like, okay, I'm gonna ask the question. And then I was just wondering, while we're sitting here, is there a maximum capacity for these one-bedroom apartments?
I don't know.
I don't have
There
something
is-
to do with what we're doing
There is
right
a
now.
square footage by law, there is a number of square feet per person that can occupy a bedroom,
Right,
yes.
but right now, before they decide to do this, what is the capacity of these?
It's two bedroom, two person per bedroom.
Right, so right now, they already have more people in there than with the one bedrooms.
We,
No.
But I'm just saying. Thank you.
anyone else from the public that would like to speak? I want to,
Sorry, not having seen this, it's really hard to.
yeah, well, you're going to have an opportunity
Next
to.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand, but it might be useful to ask questions that would make a difference. Are the escape exits from the basement still to the east?
We are debating to have either one to the west or one to the east, but we are eliminating one of them.
And the location of the HVAC?
That has been relocated to the rear of the property, the rear of the house.
Right. And what are the roof lines? Or
They're,
how are
they're flat.
As they're stepped back, is
They're
it
flat.
flat or are
They're
they
flat.
peaked?
They're flat.
There are no
roof.
peaked roofs?
No peaks.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else from the public that would like to speak? Okay, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. And based on everything we heard today, I'll make a motion to continue the application until next month. All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Moving to the third item on the agenda, it's Harry Ledley, 544 Elwood Avenue. Please take notice that the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Village of Sleepy Hollow will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, May 18, 2022, at 7 p.m. in the Municipal Building, 28 Beacon Avenue, Sleepy Hollow, New York, to receive comments from the public on the application submitted by Harry and Rebecca Ledley seeking approval to install 6-foot fencing in the rear and side yards where the following variance from Chapter 450 of the Code of the Village of Sleepy Hollow is required. Article 7, 450-40F2, supplementary regulations, coverage in open space, fences, and walls. Maximum permitted fence height, rear and side yards 5 feet, proposed fence height 6 feet. The property involved in the application is located at 544 Bellwood Avenue, is situated in the R2 zoning district, and is shown on town tax assessment maps as Section 11019, Block 1, Lot 30. A copy of the application and accompanying documents are available for review at the Department of Architecture, Land Use Development, Buildings and Building Compliance during normal business hours, or may be reviewed and downloaded from the village's website. Written comments may also be sent in a manner ensuring receipt by 4 p.m. on the day of the public hearing by mail to Chairman Timothy Church, care of the Village of Sleepy Hollow, Department of Architecture, Land Use Development, Buildings and Building Compliance, 28 Beekman Avenue, Sleepy Hollow, New York, 10591, or by email to smccarthy@villageofsleepyhollow.org. All people are entitled to attend and be heard at this public hearing. Village Hall is accessible to the handicapped, to persons with disabilities. By order of the Zoning Board of Appeals, Village of Sleepy Hollow. In support of the application, we have received the building department's letter denying the request for the building permit. We have the Zoning Board of Appeals applications, parts 1 through 5. We have property survey. We have a marked property survey showing the areas of the fencing. We've received a number of photographs with the application. We have the title search. And we received the neighbor's letter in support of the application, I believe today or yesterday. Days are blending together. So if you can, just please state your name and where you live, and you may proceed.
Sure. My name is Harry Dudley. I live at 504 Bellwood Ave, so both the applicant and the owner of the property. So we currently have, I'd say, a mishmash of fence around our yard. There are photos of each piece right now, actually. You'll notice the inconsistencies around our yard. Both some 6-foot fence already existing. This is a little bit shorter against the back of our yard, an even shorter fence. On the other side, there exists, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a wire fence along here. And then finally, rounding out another 6-foot fence.
Can you slow down and can you walk us through where these fences are?
Sure. So it's probably easier if you have the paper copies. If you can kind of look at 2 pages at once, we'll go from section A at the top and loop around to section E. So section A is the fence that if you were to come up our driveway, you'd see to your right. We have a shared driveway with our neighbors. We're on the right side of the driveway and they're on the left side. And so that first fence that you'll see there, this is from the inside view, from in our backyard looking out, is this 6-foot wooden fence. In general, we're looking to replace all of these pictures that I show you with a 6-foot vinyl fence, the same look and feel across the entire backyard.
So, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I'm processing what you're saying.
Yeah.
So there's an existing 6-foot fence there now?
Yeah, I can't necessarily comment on how that became 6 feet.
Well, that was, that's
Yeah.
why I was asking the question, just from a, Sean, can you just refresh my memory, what you can do as of right versus,
Sure.
I always forget, especially this looks like another funky lot.
So, you're allowed to have a 3-foot, maximum 3-foot high fence in the required front yard area setback. And then anything beyond the front yard, you can go up to 5-foot maximum.
Thank you.
Yeah, we moved in about 18 months ago, coming on 2 years. So everything here was here before you moved in.
Pre-existing,
Yeah. The section B, this is, if you look at the property line, this is the shared property line with our neighbors that we share the driveway with. They are a corner lot on Bellwood, and so they actually have a 6-foot fence around their property. And as part of this work, vinyl fences, both sides look nice. The posts kind of go through the middle, and so there's no back to it, both sides of the front. And currently, both of us have wooden fences where the backs are not pretty. So of course, with our, with your neighbors, they have a fence that you can see out the backs. It's 5 feet. We have because theirs is 6 feet, and we have our 5-foot. And so as part of this, just as neighbors, we're talking about taking both of these down and putting a single shared fence as well.
And the vinyl fence that you're alluding to is going to be a solid fence?
Yeah, I have a picture, pull it up here. I think this is a real picture. It's from their website, but this is what we're planning on putting in place. So it's a privacy fence with what's called a scallop top.
What is the height of just the scalloped portion?
That's a good question. I don't have that exactly. I believe it's 6 foot up to the top of the post. So the scallop is probably about a foot of it, but I don't have that exact detail.
Okay.
And so part of the reason, there's couple reasons that we'd like to do 6 foot around the whole property. So one is that if we want a shared fence here to match our neighbor's property, we believe that we should be good neighbors and keep it the 6 foot that they have around their whole yard to keep consistency there. If we continue around our property, the next bit, section C, this is back to an empty lot right now, and behind that empty lot is Broadway, and there's not much really blocking both the noise and the sight of Broadway. And so one reason we're looking for a higher fence for this section in particular is to help block that noise from Broadway.
So I'm seeing a stone wall with the fence being on top. Is the fence, I can't tell from the photo, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to tell. Is that short wood fence on top of the stone wall? Or is
These posts don't go down any further, but it's kind of I don't know if I'd say like on top of, but it's, if you continued putting these down, they'd be directly on the back of the.
Okay, so it's behind it.
Yeah, the posts themselves go into the rock.
So they're attached to the
But the
stone wall.
fence
The
itself
post
is
is-
behind it.
Yeah, the fence is behind, yeah.
So I guess what I was looking to,
Got it.
if you could zoom back out.
Yep.
If there's a 3-foot fence now, where, are you talking about going double the height of what's there now? Or, I'm trying to figure out where that 6-foot line of a new fence would be. Is it above, is it 6 feet?
Yeah, so,
Starting from the top of the stone wall?
so this total thing is higher than 3 feet right now. I believe this is closer to 4-ish.
Altogether?
Yeah, from where you stand
From
to
the
the top of
ground,
the fence.
Okay.
I believe the wood wall is 3 feet. And so we're looking, sorry, not the wood wall, the stone wall is 3 feet. So add a foot for the fence there, and that's about 4 feet. So this would be an additional 2 on top of that. So when I talk about a 6-foot fence here, vinyl posts are bigger than wooden posts. And so the person building the fence isn't sure they'll necessarily be able to put those posts in the stone the same way that these wooden ones are. And so most likely the fence will end up directly behind the stone wall as if the fence continued down to the ground.
Is it possible for you to identify approximately where you think the top of the new fence will be? I don't think I'm still struggling to understand where, what you would consider the bottom of the 6 fence.
Yeah. So if we think of this stone wall as about 3 feet and we add another 1 to 2 feet for the wooden fence, I would add another 1 to 2 on top of that.
So
about double the stone.
over, so 6 foot total from the ground?
Yeah. Yeah, sorry if that wasn't clear.
Just so I understand, because again, this is kind of difficult to get your hands around. If that fence wasn't there and you've got just the brick, the stone wall,
Yeah.
right? And you go over the stone wall, is it dropped the same way or?
Yeah.
Okay, then I understand. Because
Yeah.
sometimes the stone wall is here, you're
Yeah.
flat, but the ground is equal to,
Yeah.
like a retaining wall.
Think of this as the
So it's
stone
not a
wall.
retaining wall, it's just a wall.
Yeah, so think of this as the stone wall.
Yep.
I'm 6 feet, I'm 5'11", so this will be the fence behind it. It'll be
Okay.
from where I stand to
Thank
whatever
you.
6 feet off the ground is.
Perfect, yeah.
And please repeat what's on the other side of that?
The other side is an empty lot.
Empty lot.
Currently owned by some LLC somewhere.
And that's uphill, right?
It becomes uphill. Like I peeked my head over the fence, and there is a little bit of a raised ground further off to the left.
Right.
But I wouldn't call it significantly uphill.
So don't mean to confuse this even more, but the actual fence, not counting the stone wall, the actual fence is then 5 feet.
The proposed fence?
Yeah.
No, the proposed fence is 6 feet. So we're proposing 6 feet around the entire property.
No, on top of, like, so the actual, I'm not talking the stone wall, it's just what you're gonna build on top of the stone wall.
Because it will be behind the stone wall,
It's next to the stone wall.
Yeah,
It's
it's-
not on top of the stone
it'll be
Oh.
directly behind it against it.
Okay, got
Um,
it.
Part of that is that with vinyl, they've said you can't have a half-tall section.
That's probably better.
You have to go down to the ground.
Sorry.
I'll take the advice. I've never, had to install the fence.
Just from a constructability standpoint, that's why I say that.
And so kind of from our perspective, given both the kind of consistency with our neighbors as well as the protection from Broadway, we'd also like consistency in our yard, which is why we're proposing not just 6 foot in these 2 sections, but then continuing that around the rest of the property. So the last 2 sections, this is now section D. This is a very short, very see-through wire fence that exists today. It actually doesn't connect completely. We have our old dog gate up here and a dog crate up here to close the gaps so our dog doesn't escape from the yard. And then the last bit is,
And I'm sorry, and that borders the property of a neighbor then?
yes, I believe that there's a neighbor that owns the lot directly here. There's a lot then next to it. Those are both, they're not empty lots, but there's no houses there. And then they own a third lot. that has their actual house.
If they're not empty lots, what's on them?
This is just woods. It's not empty in the sense of the lot behind us, behind the stone wall. Nobody lives there, nobody goes there.
It's overgrown and.
It's overgrown, yeah.
Whereas this is maintained, but there's no house on it.
Yeah, and it's connected to, I believe it's connected to their third lot that they own.
Okay.
I don't have the full survey here of Phillips Manor, but there are three individual lots that I believe are owned by the same couple.
Okay.
And so this one here is, you can see both one lot, which is mostly the trees and the woods, and the next lot, which contains their shed, which you can see just in the back here. That's the shed on the second property.
So, if I'm reading this map correctly, I'm sorry to interrupt. You can go into each of the
This one here. Oops. This map?
Yes, sorry, I was zoomed out so much. Is every location where you're proposing the fence, except for section A, does it abut somebody else's property?
Is it against someone else's property?
Yes.
Section E, this is on our property only.
Okay.
But yes, this would be against the one that we were talking about.
Yep.
C would be against this empty lot.
Yep.
B would be against our neighbor's lot, and A is against our driveway.
Thank you.
So A and E. are the only ones.
Should I stay here? And I do actually have pictures that aren't in this document that show the view of A and E from the road in our driveway, because I know I did not include that. And so that final section, section E, is again, this is just a 6-foot fence that's already here, and so we're replacing this with the vinyl as well. And just for reference, this is a view, hard to see now, but the E fence is right back here. You can kind of see some of this wood through the trees. And then from our driveway, here's the shared driveway, and you can see on the right-hand side in the back, that's section A.
Where does the neighbor live that wrote the email and supported the application?
They're the ones that live on the west side right here. Neighbors back here.
The blue and brick house?
Yeah.
The shared driveway.
Yep.
Well, why do you need a 6-foot fence instead of a 5-foot fence?
So the kind of 3-step logic there is one, consistency for our neighbors with their fence. The second is we believe 6 foot is just a little bit more protection from Broadway than 5 foot. And then using those is then to build consistency in our yard. Just visually, if we go back up to the sections, if we were to have 6 foot for section B and section C for those 2 reasons, we'd like the consistency for section A, E, and D as well. But it's mostly being driven by consistency for our neighbors and our proximity to Broadway in the backyard.
Okay, I need to go back for a moment, just taking advantage of your color coding. The fence with the neighbor that you're planning to tear down and share the space, which color code?
That's section B,
Thank you.
the pinkish color.
Is the 6-foot fence of the neighbor, does that have a variance?
I would have to check.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. When talking to folks, it sounds like lots that are directly on Broadway often have 6-foot fences because that's directly against the noise. They're again, I don't have a picture of Phillips Manor here, but they are directly. If this where my mouse is, this is Broadway right here.
But there's no 6-foot zoning regulation for I mean, can't you achieve consistency with your neighbor and with your own lot with a 5-foot fence? Or really what you're facing is in section B, having your neighbor have a 6-foot fence and you having a 5-foot fence along B, but otherwise having a 5-foot fence from A through E. Is that really, that's really it, right?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Meaning you could have a 5-foot fence all the way from A through E, and the only inconsistency that would exist is section B with your neighbor.
Correct, if we were able to do a 6-foot there.
No, if you did a 5-foot fence all the way around,
Yeah.
the only discrepancy would be if your neighbor said, okay, we're not gonna give up our 6-foot for a 5-foot. That would be.
Sure, we would still have this peekaboo.
They wouldn't agree to a 5-foot fence.
I have not asked them, but they have 6 foot around the rest of their yard. So the thought was to enable consistency for them. They don't necessarily even have to get rid of their fence, but their fence is definitely probably a couple of years from being replaced as well. And so we looked at this as an opportunity for them to get some of the benefit of us replacing our fence.
Any comments or questions from the board? Yeah, I don't have any other questions, so I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have anyone from the public who would like to speak? Just state your name and address, please. Thank you.
Darren Bushy, 546 Bellwood Ave. So I am said neighbor that I mentioned a few times, and I, of course, support the 6-foot fence. Just to add a few reasons from my standpoint, or our standpoint. One, I agree with the consistency, and we will need to eventually replace our entire fence, not only the section that butts up to their property, but around Route 9, and also into the back vacant lot as well. And just from a safety and privacy standpoint, they have a young child, they have a dog, and the 6-foot fence offers a little extra privacy, especially, excuse me, along that stone wall. As we visit them, we bring our dog over as well, and our dog, it can jump very high, and it makes me a little bit nervous for them to have a smaller fence if we were to bring our dog over, because we know he can jump over that fence. So that 6 feet just gives me a little extra comfort, as well as them, I believe, a little extra comfort. So I would prefer a 6-foot fence for those reasons.
Thank you. Thank you. I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any comments from the board?
So I'm pretty familiar with that property. I knew the previous owners and the previous owners of your property as well. The fence, from my perspective, and the house's location, from my perspective, it's a pretty high traffic opening into Phillips Banner, entrance into Phillips Banner. People coming south sometimes come kind of quickly around the corner. You know, from the standpoint of visibility from the fence, from seeing the fence from the street, I don't think anyone sees it. That's my perspective.
Yeah, I agree with Tom, again, being very familiar with it. I'm also living on 2 Kelhorn, so 1 house away from 9. You know, it is interesting. And I think 2 things to take into account if we decide to allow this is, first of all, the shape of the yard, which again is you know, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides to this. And then also that realistically, 3 of them are hidden entirely from any kind of public view. So
think that's an important point to note,
Mhm.
Craig, is the, principally, it's probably no secret that just giving a variance for a height change has not been something that I comfortably do every time. I just think that what was put in place for a reason, and for consistency in the village. So I'm challenged every time one of these comes before me. Also having events from my property that conforms. So it's just the type of thing that I feel like I'm challenged in understanding the significant difference, aside from the neighbor with the fence that's already 6 foot high, of a 5 foot versus a 6 foot fence, but I'm also not very tall. So I'm struggling with this, just being completely transparent, because I'm concerned about the precedent of continually changing what was set in place for the village. And I think that we need to understand wholeheartedly, what sort of impact this could have, not so much with your property, but then it's a precedent that we're setting for every time somebody comes before us. So that's my struggle.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and I think that when the Board of Trustees adopted the 5-foot height variance, height regulation, I'm sure that safety was on their mind and it was a consideration. So when applicants come and say, I need a fence for safety reasons, I think that was already considered by the board, and it's our role to see if the applicant has met the criteria for variance, and I don't think safety is one of them. As far as not being able to see the fence from the road, the issue I have with that is this property has, 3 or 4 neighbors, or potential neighbors. So you have an undeveloped lot, you have at least 2 neighbors who are living there now, and then potentially develop a lot perhaps. And each time we allow a variance for a height reason on a fence, a neighbor is affected, and that neighbor is going to look at it and say, okay, I want to do the same thing. No one can see my fence, and all of a sudden we are down the line granting variances for fences that purportedly people can't see, but do affect the person next door. And that's a problem from my perspective.
Well, that's the rest of the research I was talking about.
That's exactly, my point would be the same, because if we do this for this property, what's going to happen the next, and like you said, there is a lot, you don't know what those, whoever's going to come in there, what their preference will be, and now we made a decision on this, so I have concerns about that.
Any other comments for does anyone want to make a motion to approve the application? So I think I'd make a motion to deny the application. So, for the reasons expressed, one, I think the applicant can obtain consistency with a 5-foot fence, and there will be minimal inconsistency with the neighboring property. As far as producing an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, we're fully aware there are 6-foot fences in the neighborhood, but generally speaking, this is a 5-foot fence neighborhood with 3-foot fences on the roadways, and this will be an inconsistent change in the neighborhood. The applicant can achieve increased privacy through a 5-foot fence and higher shrubbery if that's the goal. And that leads into section B of the area variance requirement, which is, can the applicant achieve what it desires through another method without obtaining the variance? And again, I think that I have of 3-foot fence in my backyard and 7-foot shrubs. And it's been there for 20 years. So I've enjoyed the privacy ever since I've moved in. And I think that can be achieved the way I just described.
Can I comment now? Or?
Let me just finish. Okay. And whether the requested area variance is substantial, I do think that obviating the zoning requirement for 5-foot fences for one applicant is a slippery slope and can lead to a downward spiral for other applicants. I really think this is a board of trustee issues. We see these applications many times, and you know, if there's enough support, public support for higher fencing, then this is really a board of trustee issue, not a zoning board issue. Will it have an adverse effect on the impact of the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood or district? If the fence is hidden, I can't say it will, so I don't think that criteria is an issue. Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, it is self-created. It's not the only criteria that we use when we consider an area of events, but I think here it is self-created. I know we are deliberating right now, but I'll let you comment.
No, it's
yeah. Okay, so I'll make a motion to deny the application. Is there a second? Is there anyone in favor, else in favor of denying the application?
Wait, can you restate that, please?
Is there anyone else in favor of denying the application?
Denying it.
So,
Can you poll each member, please, just so I have.
Oh,
Can I speak? Can I board?
so I have to be polled. Tommy, are you in favor of granting the application or denying?
Is there an abstain?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Correct?
Deny?
Sandy? Correct?
Deny.
Margaret?
Deny.
And Sandy? Deny. Sure, you can.
So I don't think what you guys were taking into consideration with this denial was the fact that we share a driveway. It was clearly laid out on the exhibit. So I have been granted a 6-foot fence for being part of Broadway, I believe, right? I have a 6-foot fence. They already have a 6-foot fence. So when I change my fence, I'm going to have a 6-foot fence, and he's going to have a 3 to 5-foot fence, and it's gonna, everyone can see that. That's the most visible part of our property. So you're talking about having a weird-looking fence in the most visible part of our property, but you're denying the entire property, including the pieces that aren't even visible to the rest of the neighborhood. So in other words, if I were to have a lower than 6-foot fence, my dog can jump over that fence, and that's dangerous. So safety is a concern, unless you don't include the safety of animals. But whatever. Human safety, maybe if an animal gets over it, the yard maybe it's a little bit dangerous. But the point is, you would have a very weird-looking variance in the front yard between my fence and his fence. So that's going to happen if this is not, which I guess it is. So it's just something that the neighborhood's going to have to deal with. That's all.
Well, can I make a point? If you were to change your fence,
Mm-hmm.
if you were to change your fence in the future, you are aware you would have to have a 5-foot fence. You cannot go back to 6.
Great.
Just
You
so
know
you-
I'm under 9.
That's been there for a while, but if you were to change, it would have to be a 5. Believe me,
I'm not-
I know, because I had a 6-foot and I had to go to 5.
That's dangerous. That's just not.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. And Margaret, I think you had some notice. Did you submit them?
I submitted them directly to Pam via email.
Okay.
I told her page and paragraph number.
All right, so I'm sure they're appropriate and, subject to Pam accepting your comments.
Right, the only thing I said to Pam that, well, I can tell you what I said to Pam. I said to Pam, sometimes she writes things deliberately verbatim. So if she's taking somebody's hearsay, she tries to go verbatim. But I corrected 1 misspelling and I think 6 grammatical errors, but I offered them as possibilities. Do you want me to go through them, or do you want me to send them to you? I can send you all the email.
Did any of the changes change the?
The substance?
Yeah.
No. The substance was not affected.
That's fine.
Ms.
So-
Grammarian here is,
In Miss Grammarian, I trust, so
So, subject to panel considering Marty's changes, I'll make a motion to approve.
Most times we will edit them if there are errors, spelling and stuff before they're released.
yeah,
Fine.
somebody's name was misspelled.
Sure.
And is there a second to approve?
Oh, and there was a date that was wrong. She said 2002 instead of 2022.
Well, we'll catch it.
Working on it.
Doing hero's work.
She does not take offense. My experience with Pam is she never takes offense.
I think we're still doing the work.
Yep. But you need a second?
Yes,
Second.
all in favor?
I'm just saying, because I wasn't.
Okay. good. And then make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, you can turn it off now.